Yeah, the Scott Agness situation is looking really bad for the Fever. It is looking really, really bad for the Fever. And I cannot stress this enough. I need to, in my video talking about this, I absolutely did not accuse the Indiana Fever of firing Scott Agness because he refused to shit on Caitlin Clark. But I did absolutely point out the fact that he's on local media where they're trying to convince him to shit on Caitlin Clark. And I said, it's a bad look. I said the timing's bad and it's a bad look. But we can confirm that Scott Agness' credentials were revoked before that. So he was not fired for cheating on Caitlin Clark. He was not fired for that. So I need to make sure that is known. It was bad timing that one day after an interview where you used shit on Caitlin Clark when it seemed like the world was, including people in the Fever, he got his credentials revoked, but that was nothing to do with it. So let's take a listen to Scott Agness here.
And when it was clear it was a dead end, this is the only reason I decided this needed to be made public. We need to get this corrected, not just for me, but for the next person that it could easily happen to in another market, etc. I'm an independent reporter. I've been covering the team for a couple decades, but I'm on my own. So I do not have that public backing, or private backing, I should say, of a company. So the situation here was before their game against the Portland Fire, and the Fever had a clean bill of health on the injury report, right? And so then at about 5:20 p.m., the Fever announced that all of a sudden, not just the star of the team, but the face of the league was out. And so short while after that, I put out a tweet after making a couple calls and texts to get further understanding, because here's one of the big things I want to emphasize, and I'm sure you guys, being in digital media, hearing all of it, is there's so many conspiracy theories. There's so many speculating. There's so many people who believe they know what they know, when in reality, we all just want clarity. And so I put out an initial tweet.
So in fairness, he's not wrong. Scott Agness is the only reason we knew about Caitlin Clark's initial injury last year, the ankle injury. He's the only reason we knew about it. Scott Agness has definitely said and posted things that the Indiana Fever are not happy with. I think we can all say that. Like, the Indiana Fever did not want the ankle injury to get out. They did not want that injury to get out. And it's when it became especially clear the Indiana Fever lied about the injury. They did not want to get out. But he's not wrong. Everyone just wants clarity. Everything the Fever does is something cryptic, half-truths. Trying to hide stuff from the public. And when stuff is being hidden, that's when people run with whatever theories they have. They look at the evidence there and they run with theories. And then some people make up evidence and go with the most extreme conspiracy theory. And if you can find anything to back that up, because we're not hearing anything from the Fever, that's where those type of things end up getting traction. Because look, we don't know. Like, as much as what people want to say, like, even those extreme conspiracy theorists last year, saying that the Indiana Fever, like, there are people saying the Indiana Fever faked Caitlin Clark's ankle injury, that she actually wasn't injured, they sat her in the playoffs. The reality is the opposite. The reality is her ankle injury was significantly worse than the team said. The team played it off like she had a minor injury, and she had a really bad injury. And let's go back on Scott Agness here.
Then I put out a quick story. Then I updated that story with comments from the head coach, Stephanie White, because every coach talks before each game. And then you update that in my story. I added full video so everyone could hear all of Stephanie's comments, and then posted it again. That's kind of the pathway, right, that we in journalism handle. Is it's one thing to the next. You keep updating it until you have the full story there. And so they took issue with it. We can disagree on the nuance or the context, but it was spot on, as I alluded to in my story.
He wasn't wrong. He just worded something in a way that they definitely wouldn't have liked. Like, he said strategic management plan for her injury or something. The reality is that, yes, the Fever, it is one of these things where if Caitlin Clark says she's not feeling 100%, they're going to sit her out. They're going to sit her out. It's her call as much as it is the Fever's. And the team is like, they even said it. It was like, they are valuing long-term health over short-term health. They're valuing her health over a long term, over the course of the season, over the course of a game in May. Which, yes, Scott Agness using the word strategic management plan means that sounds like a load management plan. And I can get why they'd be pissed off about him using those exact words. But he's not wrong. He just put a name on it, whereas you didn't put a name on it. It's like, I don't know, saying that it's like with tanking in the NBA. When you call it the process, it's a problem. Because there's now a name on it. You have now called it this. You have now made it a thing. But if a team's just tanking in silence, no one cares. Like, he just put a name on what they were doing. He said strategic management plan. What are they doing? They are managing Caitlin Clark's early season muscle issues. They are managing it strategically. They're strategically managing her games early on in the season so she's ready for the year. It is maybe not there's no name on it, but I'm going to be real. Like, kind of like a strategic management plan is probably what it was. And then you've got him on the show discussing it as well. Let's take a listen here.
Been getting limited and more limited in so many ways. What does this moment say to you about where we could be going? How do we prevent this from being a precedent that follows other teams and leagues down the line?
Yeah, I would say number one in all this is it's unnecessary noise, right? This is not what anyone around the team, this is not what fans want to be talking about, but it directly impacts them. And that's one of the big things we need to emphasize here. Everything should not be just a press release. There needs to be additional reporting. I think we all have our spaces in sports media, right? You have the columnist, which plays a big role in sharing their opinion, the beat reporter who's there every single day covering all aspects of the team. That's something I take pride in. And then you have shows that talk about it. And so, number one, that's a thing. And then secondly, I mean, we're seeing where so many jobs are negatively impacted that I fear for where sports media or just media as a whole could go. And so if someone like me who is willing to commit, this is my job. This is not, to be clear, my secondary job. I do it in evenings only, whatever. And that's admirable. But this is what I think about when I wake up. This is what I think about before I go to bed, and I have for more than the last decade. And the other thing here that's been so frustrating is I've been around this team for so long. I was even around the team well before that, now more than 20 years. And so to be treated like this, to have it over an email, to not have a conversation about it with key figures that I know.
And he's not wrong. Look, you've heard it from a lot of places in the media. You've heard it from people that are former players that are in the media talking about the league, is that they basically wanted they want the WNBA media to be an extension of a press release. So they want their beat reporters to basically be an extension of a press release. A lot of these teams. And we've heard it from Annie about the Chicago Sky. They weren't the biggest fans of her. Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, she's just a mouthpiece for the organization. As an organization, Chicago Sky didn't like her, because she said she covered this team like it was any other team. The problem is that the Indiana Fever are not ready for a league for the big time. They're not ready to have fans caring. While at the same time, they're doing a little bit of what the NBA is almost trying to do, where it's like, we are trying to control the narratives. We're trying to push what we want. And if somebody's going to actually accurately report something, we're going to make them out to be a problem. And we know a lot of people that are basically employed by the big media networks are less likely to go in on our team. And if I'm being real, they're more likely to go in on one specific player for the Fever, which I would be shocked if the Indiana Fever have any issue with that. People going at Caitlin. But that being said, it's one of those things where it's a really bad precedent for the media, right now. And when you are the Indiana Fever, who are one of the more relevant teams in sports right now, to be the team that sets the bad precedent isn't a good look. And especially when a lot of people are kind of turning on your organization, your main player, you've now got even the people that were pro-organization, anti-Caitlin, are now suddenly anti-Fever organization and anti one of your main players. It's just not a good look. And I get it that, again, they're not the only team that's trying to like get rid of beat writers that aren't independent beat writers. Because let's be real, the WNBA needed them back in the day, and they don't anymore. And these teams would rather have people with on the big networks. Why? Because they know that they have some sort of control over the narrative. That being said, like, it is a bad precedent that's being set up in sports in general, and of course the Fever has to be the one team to basically publicize that bad precedent and be the face of the bad precedent now.